Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Alright, so to begin, I would like to ask you a few simple questions. When you learned that you were taking an online course, how did you feel?
Well, to say that I was initially anxious to start the class would be a giant understatement. Online classes and I never really mixed. My first online class was accounting, and deadlines were not really enforced, so I think you can figure out how that went. And then my second online class was physics, and I dropped that within a month of being in the class. So the thought of me having to do an online course in university seemed like my worst nightmare.
And was it really your worst nightmare as you described it?
It was nothing like I expected.
Could you explain further?
At first, I was skeptical about how this class was going to go and how it was going to help me in my teaching profession. I thought that all I really needed to know, like technology-wise, was how to use a smartboard and how to use YouTube, because that's all of my teachers used back home, and I knew how to use both better than most teachers back home, mind you. So of course, like you're supposed to do in a class, I learned some things that I never thought I would. First, I had an inkling on how important it was for me to make sure that my social life was professional. All employers look on Facebook and Instagram before hiring an employee. So I made sure to always post something I knew I wouldn't regret in the future, and made sure not to tag myself in posts that I didn't really want to be in. But one of the first things I learned that was important was to make sure you're always in control of what you post online. This led to me making a Twitter in the class, which you would think an 18-year-old like me would already have, and I also had to make a blog.
Can we focus a little more on Twitter? Why hadn't you tried it before?
Well, I did, but I didn't like the setup of it. It was very new, and I kind of like dipping my toes in before just diving headfirst. And then suddenly I had to try and tweet twice a day for this class and interact online with others. And I thought I was going to go into cardiac arrest when I heard that. It was nerve-wracking. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything about Twitter, but I realized it was more than just memes and One Direction drama. Of course, you can spread educational posts on Twitter. That was something I always knew. But there are these chats you can do. Basically, you follow a tag and keep track of it, and someone leads those chats. And they ask you questions and you answer, and you make sure your answer has the hashtag attached to it. And it's a great way to learn new perspectives, like everyone joins in.
Was there one in particular that you enjoyed?
There was this really great chat called Sask Ed Chat, and it was all about education. And it talked about how we could innovate the classroom in any way, more than just technology, and we used the Twitter platform to talk. And it was then I realized that Twitter could be really helpful to me as a teacher.
And what about your blog?
That was the best part about the whole class. I was able to express my feelings on technology and how my new knowledge could help me as a teacher. One thing we focused on was fake news and how we as teachers are supposed to make sure students are wary of it, but how do we make sure they avoid it? Students are impressionable, so it's our job to teach them that not everything online can be trusted, even if it does come from a credible source.
How do you think you can help make sure that students avoid fake news?
So check your sources, obviously, and I think they should question the political ideas of the source. These days, a lot of news is swayed based on the political spectrum of the writer, or the source, or the editor, so on and so forth. And if they have views that are equal to that of the alt-right, for example, the information the student may be getting may be biased, so they should maybe question the kind of things they are using.
Obviously, you know there's worse things that kids could find online than fake news.
Of course.
Can you elaborate?
Well, one thing I found really interesting was the Monica Lewinsky TED Talk. She was attacked back in the 90s, and for something that wasn't really entirely her fault. I was very passionate about this. I thought that it was telling that Monica was painted as a homewrecker, that most of the media attention was on her, but Bill was also part of that relationship, and he allowed her to become that homewrecker. Bill was blamed, yeah, but nowhere nearly as bad as her. Monica's life was almost ruined because of the scandal. And there's no doubt in my mind that she wasn't the main instigator of the relationship. Also, there was this was when internet was new. Today, things pick up much faster and have much worse consequences, so it was kind of shocking to see how awful it could be for Monica. So it could be totally different for people today.
Yes, I heard you covered the Amanda Todd case. Do you think there was any parallels that happened between Amanda Todd and the Monica Lewinsky happenings?
Definitely. What Amanda Todd did wasn't her fault. She was an impressionable young girl who liked attention, and how is she any different than any other teenager? And her small mistake haunted her for the rest of her life. She was blackmailed and harassed, and she had to move schools because of this little mistake she made online. And this can happen to anybody, and it's so much easier to happen today. I think my role as an educator can help students from making these kinds of mistakes online. I could teach them about how something as simple as a tiny mistake online can stay with you forever, but I always want to encourage them of the importance of the internet.
And what do you mean by that?
I don't think telling the horror stories are going to stop students from using the internet. The internet is great entertainment, so trying to instill fear isn't going to stop them from going on to that online source. Plus, telling a student to just stop using the internet isn't going to solve any issue. I've learned that I can use the internet in so many ways to benefit my own life, and I can use it to build an online portfolio, to learn new things, to interact with new people, and it doesn't just benefit my life, it benefits everyone's. So what would my students gain if I told them, don't go online? That would just be a stupid decision. It's a great educational tool, so to just deny my students the right to use it won't help them in the long run. It's important for them to use the internet, and I hope that I can prove that as a teacher.
I agree. Shalene, thank you for being here today. Up next, Harry Styles is not happy going solo, and neither are the rest of the boys. Is One Direction back on the table? Join us after the break to find out more.